Hello, AVAIYA family. Andy Anderson here. My partner Ike Allen and I are the co-owners of AVAIYA University. Thank you so much for joining us for our Breaking Free from Codependency curriculum. We have another great class lined up for you today with Amelia Fortes. She's going to be talking with us about the 5 deceptions that stop you from deep, fulfilling, and satisfying relationships. Amelia and I dive into these 5 deceptions. We also talk about what being entangled or enmeshed with your past looks like, how to love yourself and recognize where is it that you end and another person begins, how to be playful with your recovery from codependency, and so much more. Enjoy the class, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to AVAIYA's Breaking Free from Codependency curriculum. I'm Andy Anderson. My partner, Ike Allen, and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of AVAIYA University. AVAIYA is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you so much for being here. Our fellow teacher, Amelia Fortes, is here to talk with us today about the 5 deceptions that stop you from a deep, fulfilling, and satisfying relationship. Amelia is an intuitive energy healer. She's an inspirational speaker and a self-love coach. She specializes in helping people transform their dating madness into romantic magic. Also, she helps people find their ideal career direction and up-level their money and abundance. Thank you so much for being here with us, Amelia.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be considered for such an amazing topic and an amazing platform.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so delighted, and yeah, let's dive into this. I love you have a variety of things that you talk about, which I find so fascinating, and obviously everything is connected in our world. So I think that's so awesome that you do all those different areas. So let's dive into the area of relationships, since that's our biggest focus today. So I want to just dive right into your topic. You talk about these 5 deceptions that stop people from having these healthy relationships. So what are these 5 deceptions?
Yeah, it's very juicy and intriguing, isn't it? So just to give a little bit of background of how I came up with these 5 deceptions. So, I've been working in my field for probably closer to 10 years now. And, but I say I've been studying life, love, and relationships since I was a little girl. I know I'm a Cancer sun for any astrology fans. So I'm all about like that mushy gushy, emotional, lovey-dovey stuff. And I just know ever since I was a little girl, I was always like watching the grown-ups and just studying relationships and how people interact. And so I would say these 5 deceptions that I've been able to distill it into. And in my work with clients, any issue that they're having in relationships, I'm like, oh, deception number 3, deception number 4, and so I've been able to distill it to these 5 deceptions. And so I'm really excited to bring that here and to teach about them. And, I could talk for hours about each one, but we can just do like a little bit of an overview for today. And so we can like talk about each one and talk a little bit about it, and just so people get a taste, because they'll have an opportunity to learn even more deeply about it. And again, I do like 3-month, I've been working with clients for years, and 3-month-long programs just about these deceptions. So I just want to name, like, if you're watching this, like, don't feel like you have to really understand them all deeply. Like, just consider this like planting the seed and starting to lift the veil of these deceptions in your life. And I think they're really good to be aware of, especially with this topic of breaking free from codependency.
Awesome.
I definitely have codependent tendency, so I totally get it. And learning these deceptions, discovering them, and teaching them have continued to help me break free from codependency. So awesome. I just want to like lay the groundwork.
Yeah. No, I think instead of a 30-minute interview here, maybe we should do 5 hours, because
I know, let's
at least an hour for each.
Exactly. Full day summit, get your tickets now. So really the first one is about denying what you really want. And no matter how smart someone is, how aware someone is, myself included, fellow teachers and coaches included, there's always some level of not coming to terms with what we really want. And especially in relationships, right? And that can look a myriad of ways. And some of the most common ways is I work with singles who want partnership, healthy, long-lasting, loving partnership. And so one of those ways is like, oh, I want a partnership. Yet the actions that they're taking are like choosing people who are unavailable, choosing people who straight up say they don't want partnership. And then also behaving in ways that are not in alignment with wanting a committed relationship, like having casual sex all the time. And look, I'm a sex positive person, so I'm not knocking casual sex, but my question always is the choice to have that coming from a true place of empowerment and what you really want? And so part of working through that deception is really getting that clarity on, like, because I think too, we're conditioned from Hollywood and society to be like, oh yeah, I can have sex, no problem, it's whatever. When oftentimes it's not whatever. And especially if people are stuck in codependent patterns, you know, like for me, I had to come to terms with the fact that I can't just have sex with someone and have it be whatever, because having that kind of intimacy is not whatever, and it's never going to be whatever for me. And so that's like one of the main things that I see when that deception is at play.
Yeah, that is true of me as well. I tried it out a few times, you know, in college, and it just never, it was never whatever for me either.
And like so that's part of like the denying what you really want, because it's like we say it's whatever. Movies, TV, our friends, you know, encourage it to be whatever, and it's not. And if it is whatever for you, that's not making you wrong, but it's just one example of a way that we can deny what we really want. And so helping people just kind of close the door on that, to stop taking those actions that are not in alignment with what they really want.
Yeah.
And so deception number 2 is another really common one, which I call an uneven playing field, right? And so I like to always illustrate it like with my hands like this. So it's like, let's say this is what you want. And so this is like that healthy, long-lasting partnership, that breaking free from codependency, that, you know, self-love, stepping into your own. And so in order to get what you want, you need to be like a vibrational match for it. So this is the even playing field. But when we're in deception number 2, which is an uneven playing field, we're just not a match. So we either think we're not good enough on some level, or we've even gone to the other side of it where we're somehow like superior. And so over here, it kind of looks like, let's say you're a single woman and you like dating men, and it looks like, oh, like those guys are too hot for me, or they're out of my league, or whatever. And like you find yourself on dates and just feeling just very like not enough, and feeling like, what do I have to bring to the table? So that's where you're like lower than what you want. But then sometimes that ping pongs to the other side, where it's like men are trash, or like I don't need a man, you know. And look, there's a balance with that, right? Because I do believe I don't need a man. However, if I want partnership on some level, I need a man or a woman, whichever partner you want. So saying that thing of like, I don't need a man, or like all men are stupid, or whatever things that we say, the programming, on some level, we're like being too good for them, right? And so whatever it is, we're not a match. And so what I see a lot, the biggest frustration with dating is this like ping pong of like, the guy is too boring, or he's too interested, or like he's not cute enough, or whatever. And so frustrated, or, oh my God, he's too good for me, I could never. And then we just keep ping ponging, and that's what becomes that frustrating cycle. And then you throw in codependence on top of that, and then you're just like stuck in this like,
right,
you know, or maybe you're stuck here for a really long time, and then all of a sudden you're stuck here, and it's just like boom, 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 but we're never here. So that's the deception, where it's an uneven playing field. And so in order to mitigate that, you would need to even the playing field. And that's part of like the work that I would do with people, to how do I get out of this cycle and get like on the same lane. And the exciting part is when I work with clients and they start to get in that same vibration, and they see there's an abundance. of availability, and now they're just having fun. So that's the whole piece about dating madness into the romantic magic. So that's where that whole piece lives there for deception.
Do you have like any suggestions just about that particular deception on, like, I don't know, something people could apply today when they walk away to get out of that? Because I know that one very well too, and I'm sure so many people watching do. It's yeah, the ping pong. So any, like, just a tip or a tool that they could start applying?
Yeah, I think it's really about bringing in reality. Because I think especially if we're talking about breaking free from codependency, a lot of codependency is stemmed in like this fantasy, right? And so if we're here, somehow you're making this person or these people something that they're really not. Because at the end of the day, the reality that I believe is we're all here. Mm-hmm. So there's something here that you're saying, like maybe they have a really good job, or they're too good looking, or their car's too nice, or I don't know, for whatever, they come from a really good family, whatever that is. It's like coaching yourself and being like, is this fantasy or is this reality? And then oftentimes when we're here, usually that comes from a discomfort from like receiving goodness. Because I think like we find the good, nice guys boring when we're like addicted to this, like the fantasy. We're addicted to that kind of like high adrenaline, like, ooh, and so we kind of have to like, again, bring reality in and like come back down from that and just kind of ask like, how can I receive more goodness in my life? Or how can I receive healthier intimacy and healthier dating in my life? Like the tip to walk away with, and I know that it's like not always satisfying because people want to hear like, these are the steps. But that's not really, especially we're talking about breaking free from codependency and we're talking about relationships. There's no formula. There's because everyone is so different. So it's not like these are the steps, but just starting to ask those questions of like, am I being like, so if we're here, it's like, am I creating a fantasy of someone? Is this person who they really are? And actually last night I was on one of my weekly Facebook Live, and it was like, especially when someone's really good looking. When someone's really good looking, we often create this whole person that they are, and especially like celebrities. And it's like, you don't even know that about them. One guy was saying, he's talking about like, yeah, women like abs. And so like, if they have nice abs, and what I say is, okay, abs are nice. And okay, they maybe tell me that he eats right and does some crunches, but it doesn't tell me if he's a good person. I mean, how many people with abs are total assholes? Mm-hmm. So just asking like, is this reality or am I making up a fantasy? And how can I like, kind of level set? And then over here, it's like, am I pushing away goodness in my life? Am I rejecting what I want? And how can I receive more goodness? And it kind of brings you down. So just asking those questions to like start to,
yeah.
And even if you're here, at least it's better than here.
Yeah, thank you. That was really helpful. I appreciate you diving into that. I thought that was just a key point for people. So awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Deception number 3.
Yeah, deception number 3. So that one's like a really deep one. So I don't know that like, I'm just going to just say what it is. And it's energetic entanglement with the past, right? Mm-hmm. Our relationships, our codependency, all of that stuff tends to come from our family of origin, whatever that looked like, whether we knew our parents or our primary caregivers, but whatever models we had of relationships growing up as children, because as children, we say we're sponges, so we take in everything, and it's not like we're like 5-year-olds taking notes on like, this is how mommy and daddy treat each other, but we're learning based on like what we're absorbing. And so energetic entanglement with the past really just deals with all the ways that we're still hooked to the things that we knew from childhood, but a lot of times those things that we know from childhood are not in alignment with what we want right now, right? And so just at an extreme example, abuse. Children who have been around abuse or either been abused or been in like dysfunctional upbringings, there's a familiarity with that. Even though it's bad and unhealthy and they don't want it as adults, there's a familiarity in the drama. And so we have an that's one example, right? So then we have an entanglement with drama, And then we wonder, like, okay, I'm a completely sane, intelligent person. Why do I keep getting in these situations that are all this drama? And it's like, I don't want that anymore. And it's because you're hooked into the familiarity of the drama of the past. So, I mean, that goes super deep, and there's so many examples there. But essentially, it's like, what I would leave people watching this with is just like, how am I hooked into the past? How am I still playing out old family patterns in my relationships today? That's kind of like the question.
Yeah. It's another 5-hour, 5-year discussion, because it's definitely deep for sure.
Yeah. So for our next 5-hour
yes.
video, So, and then deception number 4 is kind of one of my favorite ones. Well, I mean, I love them all, but it's just that unconscious, harsh judgments that we have of self and others. And what I would leave with that is like, let's say you're a woman who likes dating men, and it's like, if I were to write "men are" on like an easel or a whiteboard, like fill the page, just don't even think, men are, and like we hear men are dogs, men are stupid, men are hot, like whatever, like just fill the page. And even better, do it with like a bunch of your girlfriends, and just like men are, and just fill the whole page. Or if you like women are, and fill the whole page. And you will see those unconscious harsh judgments just kind of pop up. Mm-hmm. And so that deception the thing is, you can even be aware of it. But when you see the whole like whiteboard filled up with all these words of like dogs, idiots, dumb, cheaters, hot, sexy, too good, too bad, whatever is there, all of that just came out of your mouth, like, is living in your psyche. And so if you're out dating and going in the world, or relating with your partner, if you're already in a relationship, you're bringing all of that to the party. And so that deception is really about taking an honest look at those judgments and really getting to decide if they're true or not. Because when they're unconscious and they're just in the psyche, our minds just treat them as truth and as fact. And they're not, all men are not dogs. Not all men are cheaters. There are good men in the world. And so it's just about having more power and control over your belief systems, really. And so, yeah, and the reason why it's one of my favorites is because, when I do that exercise with my clients, or I have them kind of journal about it, or I give them homework to like go about your day and just notice all the judgments that come up. They always come back to the next session and they're just like, whoa. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah. And then like we look at the whole piece of paper and it's like, yeah, and you're going on dates, bringing all of this to the party.
Right.
And whether the person that you're with on that date is intuitive or not, they can feel that. Like, I know that men were able to feel when I was terrified of them, or when I was like, whatever, you're just a dog anyway, or you're just a cheater anyway. Like that doesn't invite healthy intimacy. So that's what deception 4 is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And number 5.
And finally, just rounding it up. This one's kind of a doozy. And like, I've worked with just this deception with clients for months, for years. And that's not meant to sound scary, like, oh my God, I'm never going to get over this deception. But honestly, this deception is it's a lifelong thing, like even when in relationship. And it's about checklists versus values. And so my favorite way to just describe that is, that infamous checklist where it's like, write a letter to the universe and make a list of all the things you want in someone. Well, if you take a lot of those lists, maybe even all of those lists, a lot of them are more like features and benefits, and not really about character or values. And so like features and benefits would be like tall, dark, and handsome, great in bed, good job, has a car, I don't know, like whatever, right? Or is Christian, or is Muslim, or whatever religion, or, these things. And those can be important to you. But when I work with people, it's like, okay, but that's really like a surface level feature. Like if you're talking about like a washing machine, 5 speeds, or like heavy cycle, light cycle, does lights and darks, So what I invite people to do is to take it beyond the checklist and take it to the values, right? Because let's just take a look at, okay, good job. nice car, tall, dark, and handsome, and is Christian, as an example. None of those things actually tell you if the person's good or good for you, because you can be Christian and still be pretty crappy. You can have a nice car and still be pretty crappy. You can be tall, dark, and handsome and still be pretty crappy. And so how do we take those and actually see what the value is deeper than that, right? So let's take religion. You know, I see women, especially, most of my clients are women, also gay men. I work with men too sometimes, but so that's why I'm talking a lot about women. Yeah. But I see them like, oh my God, like he knows about astrology and he meditates. And then they like again, that fantasy reality thing we talked about earlier, then they totally like like, it's like, then now they're perfect. And it's like, how many dudes meditate that are actually crappy people? Or how many people know about astrology that are actually crappy? But like, we attach this thing, and especially with codependence, we attach a lot of things with a lot of things.
Yes. To
this person. And it's just like, just because someone knows what their sun sign is and their moon sign is, doesn't mean that they're a good partner for me. And so when let's say I'm working with a client on that, I'll be like, okay, well, what's the real value there? Like what really gets you excited about that? And, you know, sometimes it takes some time to peel back those layers and dig deeper, but essentially it's like, oh, has a connection with God or a higher power. Now that's something that tells you something different, you know, versus like, oh, I know how to read my birth chart, or, oh, I know how to meditate. It's like, I have an ongoing deepening relationship with God. Like, to me, that boom, that's like the core of it. And so that's the values versus the checklist. And yeah, and like I said, I work with clients for this for like months, because they'll be like, so this is what I want. Is that values or checklist? And it's like, I don't know, is it deep enough? Does someone having this feature, is it a feature that someone can just have that doesn't actually tell you who they are? Because someone saying they're Christian and they go to church every Sunday is different than someone saying, I have an ongoing deepening relationship with God that I cultivate every day. Yeah. Like, that's so different. So that's deception number 5.
Yeah, I love that one. And I immediately thought of my experience of before I met my partner, Ike. We've been together for, oh God, over 10 years now. And before I met him, I had made that list. I'd had a lot of unhealthy, you know, codependent relationships in my past. And I had made my checklist. And I remember, like, when I met him, he did not meet like certain things on my checklist. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Here's my checklist. Here's my intellectual mind telling me all these things that are like what I want. And yeah, I love thinking back to that, because I could have never been like so wrong about my checklist, you know, and then being able to just really open up to a relationship with Ike. And again, 10 years later. So, you know, it's, it's just funny to think about how we think that's so etched in stone. And then, what can change along the way. So I love it.
Yeah. And there's so many people, myself included, where it's like, if, you know, because if we think about online dating, a lot of it is very checklisty, right? Because you put your little filters on there. And a lot of people that I talk to that are in really happy long-term relationships, they're like, my husband wouldn't have made the cut on my filters. Right, yeah. And so, I think dating apps are getting better now, like at not being so checklisty, because they have like the questions you can answer, which tells you a little bit more about the person. But yeah, absolutely. Like, if you're going with this features and benefits, it doesn't really tell you who someone is.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you for going through those 5 deceptions. And I would love to also talk a little bit about self-love, because I know that's part of what you help people with. And that is, in my experience, such a big issue for people who struggle with codependency, is just being able to actually love ourselves and have a healthy relationship with ourselves first and foremost. So any suggestions on how to love ourselves?
Yeah, the first suggestion, like I'll give like a very tactical thing. And the first thing is that, and I give this to all my clients as well, is to rate your self-talk. And I know, you know, those of you watching, some of you can be like, oh yeah, I know about self-talk, or I don't, but just rate yourself, like, because even if you know about it, like even I do it. I've known about self-talk for like years now, and I still like rating myself. Okay. And what I mean by rate yourself is on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being 100% of the things you say to yourself, whether they're about yourself or even just about the world. Because, you know, like we wake up in the morning, we're already like saying things to ourselves. So 10 is 100% of the things are positive. Everything is good. And then a 1, or if you want to say 0, would be 100% of the things are negative. So like if you're kind of like on the fence, you know, like you'd give yourself a 5 because like half the time it's good, half the time it's bad. But to be really honest with yourself and like, you know, don't even rate yourself right away. Like just make a choice to observe yourself for a week. You know, from the moment you wake up, what are you saying about how you feel? What are you saying about the weather? What are you saying about the alarm clock that just woke you up? Then when you're in the bathroom, like brushing your teeth and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, what are you saying? Are you like, oh my God, I have like 10 eye bags? Or are you saying, ooh, like I look fresh today? Like, what are you saying? Is it positive or is it negative? And I think that'll be very, very telling. And, you know, don't feel so bad about what the result is. This is really just about, because again, self-love is about being honest and gentle and compassionate with yourself. So even if you're at a 9, you know, and some of my clients are like, oh my gosh, Amelia, it's like 9 and they feel so bad. And I'm just like, well, feeling bad about it is just adding on, making it like a 9.5. And it's like, let's just, okay, so it's at a 9. Great. Now we have a jumping off point from where to go. So let's get it to an 8. Or let's get it to an 8.5 or 8.75, you know. And so I would say that would be a really good thing, you know, observe yourself for a week and, you know, don't get all analytical about it unless you want to. I know some people are more like analytical like that, but just generally, and then say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, where did I land? And that'll tell you where you are, and like to just slowly kind of inch the needle down to where you're saying more positive things about yourself. And just generally speaking about self-love through the lens of codependency, self-love is really about strengthening that muscle of understanding where you end and other people begin, or where other people end and you begin, because codependency just really blurs those lines.
Yep.
And yeah, like I'm totally like a recovering codependent. So I'm speaking like, I'm not even like speaking like you're codependent. Like I, you know, and even in my relationships, it's like, wait a second, like where do I end and where do they begin? And it's really just about asking yourself more questions, you know, like even the other day, like talking to my sister, and she's like saying these things. I forget what we were talking about. We were talking about like something like groceries or what we want to eat. And I can feel myself again, because I have codependent tendencies. I'm a recovering codependent. And I'm just like, what do I really want? And I have to really like, sometimes physically, like not in a noticeable way. Like if I'm with someone, I'm not like, what do I want? But like, even just like a little bit, I'll just be like, or even just putting a hand on my heart and just being like, what do I really want? Or even just asking for that pause. Because I think as codependents, we also attract a lot of people that are like, you should do this and you should be that. And so just being like, can I have a sec to like think about this for a second? And just giving yourself those pauses, either while you're talking to someone or even when you're alone, because as codependents, people are in our heads all day long, and just being like, whose voice is that me or is that my dad? You know, or like, is that me or was that my 5th grade teacher that like yelled at me that one time that I'm still holding on to? And as I'm laughing too, because I think self-love is a lot about bringing the humor into it, not from a place of deflecting, but from a place of like I'm human and like I'm working through this. And, you know, if you're here watching this series, I mean, you're already doing so well. So like,
yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Oh, I love that. That was awesome. And yes, and everyone knows, as I say this many, many times on camera, that I too am a recovering codependent. And yeah, like let's give ourselves a break, do the work we need to do, and yeah, be playful and loving with ourselves and not take it so damn seriously, because I know I have a tendency to do that.
I mean, oh yeah. I'm like extra, I'm like a hard worker. So of course, when I'm criticizing myself, I'm extra hard. And so, yeah, it's just a practice. It's just a muscle. Give yourself grace, be playful with it. And like, for me, what helps me is like, oh, I'm doing that codependent thing again. Instead of being like, oh, I'm so codependent. It's just like, oh, that was a little codependent, wasn't it? Huh? You know, and then shift. And it gets easier over time. It's not going to be like that, like tomorrow, if you're really stuck in the thick of it. But over time, if you just are like, oh, there I go again, people pleasing.
Awesome. Thank you, Amelia. This has been awesome. I really appreciate it. I want to make sure you get a chance to talk about your gift. So we have a button below this video, everybody, that links over to Amelia's site. So what do you have for everybody?
Yeah, so actually it's going deeper into the 5 deceptions, which is why I wasn't so worried about going super, super deep and not having enough time, because the gift I have is a 22-page downloadable PDF. It's called Friend Zone, Fuck Zoned, and Frustrated. That's that, remember that cycle? That's where you're like friend zone, fuck zone, friend zone, fuck zone, and you're just frustrated. And it's a beautiful, gorgeous guide for people seeking intimate, healthy partnership. It says it's for singles, but I even couples download it, and the deceptions are in there. So I go into deeper detail on the deceptions, as well as examples from clients that I've worked with and how they got through each deception, as well as going deeper into the antidote, right? We got to talk about some of the antidotes to these deceptions, but in the PDF, each one of them will have an in-depth medicine, I call it, on how to kind of overcome it. And I recommend, if you want and you like to print things out and write on things, print it out and then maybe even rewatch this video and like take some notes, because we kind of gave a lot of information, and sometimes the learning comes like drip over time. And so that's why I recommend printing it out, just having it, and because you might be in a situation and then you'll be like, oh, let me go back to that. Like, I think this is deception number 3. So yeah, that's what it is.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you so much. Are there any last insights? Anything else you want to leave people with before we wrap up?
Yeah. Breaking free from codependency is a journey, and hopefully, just watching Andy and I talk about it, and we proudly claim we're recovering codependents, and, I'll speak for myself. I definitely still fall into those same patterns. And so it's really be gentle with yourself. Enjoy the journey as much as possible. And if you're here, you're already doing so much better and you're already learning. And the more that you can be playful with it and have those few trusted people, and just call yourself out. Like I said, like, oh, they're people pleasing. There's that. Oh, I'm bending over backwards again for someone. Let me not do that. It's a journey, and you never get there. And even watching a video like this, or all the videos in this series, might be like, oh, I could never like be in that. Like, no, like we were there. I still go there. I'm sure like Andy, for you in 10 years. Yeah. So it's not like, I have this 10-year partnership and we're done.
No, every day, work all the time.
Exactly. And so it's part of who we are. And so self-love, back to self-love, it's loving all those parts, even the parts we may not want to love. And it's a journey, and you're already doing great.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it. Thank you so much for doing this, Amelia. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you everyone for tuning in, for showing up for yourself, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this latest class with Amelia Fortes. She talked about the 5 deceptions that stop you from deep, fulfilling, and satisfying relationships. I think my biggest take-home message from Amelia's talk is just the playfulness. Just to remind yourself to be loving towards yourself, to give yourself a break, to be kind to yourself. It doesn't mean we don't do the work, but we do it in a loving, playful way. And there are definitely times when this work, this codependency recovery, can get very painful, can get very difficult, and that is okay too. That is part of this process, to grieve things from your past, to have a better future and really build a healthy relationship with yourself and others. And at the same time, just remind yourself that it's okay to play. It's okay to reconnect with that inner child, with that part of you that maybe didn't get the childhood that it should have had, so to speak. And just remember that you can get in touch with that again and have fun in your life and be playful. So that's the number one take home. Secondly, I wanted to talk a little bit about about a couple of the 5 deceptions, one of those being that entanglement with the past, right? And Amelia mentioned a couple of times that entanglement with the past could be an entanglement with drama, with chaos, with thinking or believing something is wrong. If you grew up in a scenario where things went wrong and there was a lot of chaos and not much peace and tranquility and just relaxation and fun, then it's no wonder that you have potentially become an adult that is addicted, so to speak, to these negative states of mind, to these negative thoughts, to this drama, to the emotions that fill our body when drama and things happen outside of us. So just be aware of this if this is you. So in your relationships, let's say you're in a relationship right now, or maybe you're looking for a new relationship, just be aware of when you're actually in a relationship with someone, having a conversation with them, they're sitting across from you at the table. Are you actually in a relationship with that person who is in the here and now right across from you? Or are you in a relationship with your past? Are you in a relationship with your parent, with a father or mother or some kind of parental figure? Who are you in a relationship with in that moment? And sometimes that's helpful to bring you back into the present moment when you catch yourself potentially going back into that entangled past with past parental relationships, siblings, whatever it is. And if you're really getting caught up in that drama, to just kind of take a moment to get yourself out of that state of mind and into the here and now. The other thing I wanted to make a quick note is of harsh judgment, unconscious harsh judgment of ourselves and others. If this is something that you notice in yourself, first of all, don't judge it and just recognize it in yourself. Are you a harsh critic? Do you have a harsh inner critic, inner parent that judges you for all sorts of things as well as others? Because oftentimes if we're judging ourselves, we're also judging others and vice versa. And one thing to keep in mind when we judge others is we're really seeing something in ourselves that we don't like. So if you see someone doing something outside of you that you judge and you're in your mind judging that other person, the harsh truth often is that we actually have that within us and we don't like it. We judge that within ourselves, so we're projecting it outside of us and judging it in others. So again, just something to be aware of and to pay attention to. How often are you in judgment of yourself and how often are you in judgment of others? Thank you again so much for tuning in, for showing up for yourself, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care.